Today, we are talking about an absolute classic. It's been called a Bible for athletes, for high performers, you name it. It's Timothy Gallwey's The Inner Game of Tennis. We're going to dive into how all of us can learn to just get out of our own way, quiet that nagging voice in our head and unlock what we're really capable of. And not just in sports, but in work and pretty much all of life. I mean, it's a feeling we all know, right? You've got the big presentation, it's the crucial point in the game, or maybe an important conversation, and you tell yourself, okay, don't mess this up. And then what happens? Suddenly your mind is totally blank, your hands get all clammy, and you just can't seem to do the one thing you absolutely know how to do. So why? Why does this happen? And that right there, that's the core idea of the inner game. Gallwey tells us that our biggest opponent isn't the challenge out there in the world, it's the battle we're fighting inside ourselves. And winning this inner game, that's the real secret to performing at your best. So what is this inner opponent really? Well, to understand it, we first have to recognize that there are two different selves inside our heads, and they're both competing for control. So let's meet self one and self two. Think of self one as the talker, the ego, your conscious mind that's always giving orders and then judging how you did. And then there's self two. Self two is the doer. It's your body, your subconscious. It's the part of you that learned how to walk or ride a bike without ever reading a manual. It just knows. It works on instinct and feel. Does that sound familiar? Of course it does. That is the voice of self one. It's just this nonstop stream of commands and anxieties, and we think it's helping, right? But what it's really doing is creating all this noise that just drowns out the natural wisdom of self two. And here it is, the absolute root of the problem. Self one, the thinking mind, just does not trust self two, the body, to do its job. And this lack of trust, it leads to over-controlling, which creates tension and mental clutter that ends up sabotaging the very thing we're trying so hard to do well. Okay, so how do we fix this? Well, the first and honestly the most important step is learning how to quiet that inner critic. It all starts by letting go of judgment. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. Gallwey discovered this paradox as a coach. The more he tried to instruct his students, piling on corrections and advice, the more they just tensed up and overthought everything. But when he told them to just watch and let their bodies feel the motion, they got better almost instantly. Our bodies are incredible learning machines. If we can just get our thinking mind to shut up for a minute. I just love this analogy from the book because it's so powerful. We don't yell at a seed because it's not a flower yet, right? We get that it's part of a process. We need to give ourselves that same kind of grace. Your current skill level isn't bad, it's just where you are right now. And accepting that, without judging it, is the real key to natural growth. And this slide, it just lays out that vicious cycle perfectly. So hit the ball into the net. Instantly, self one screams, "That was terrible." That kicks off this frantic analysis of everything that went wrong. You decide you need to try harder, which just makes you tense up. And the result? You guessed it, another bad shot. It's a complete downward spiral, and it's all fueled by that one little initial judgment. So if judgment is the problem, what is the solution? Well, once we start to let go of that judgment, we can get into this incredibly powerful state that Gallwey calls relaxed concentration. Now, that might sound like a total contradiction. How can you be relaxed and concentrated? But it's not about being sleepy or passive. It's about having a quiet, alert mind that's fully in the moment, completely free from the chatter of self one. It's what athletes call the zone, or what psychologists call flow. And here is the secret to getting there. The advice we always hear, just concentrate harder, is actually a self one command that just creates more tension. The real trick is to give self one a job, a simple, non-judgmental task that keeps it busy so self two can finally take over. Just look at the difference here. The old way is a demand. I have to hit a good shot. I mean, that's just a judgment waiting to happen. But the inner game way shifts your focus to something totally neutral, something sensory. So instead of worrying about the result, you just notice the spin of the ball, or listen to the sound it makes when it hits the racket. This keeps your conscious mind occupied and frees up your body to react perfectly. I mean, isn't that the perfect way to think about it? You don't try to enjoy a sunset. The effort would completely ruin the experience. You just allow yourself to be present with it. And that same effortless awareness is the key to relaxed concentration in anything you do. Okay, so this all leads to the final, crucial piece of the puzzle, learning to really, truly trust our bodies, to trust self too. Trillions. Just think about that number. To return a fast tennis serve, your brain, yourself too, is making literally trillions of calculations about speed, trajectory, spin, and muscle coordination, all in a fraction of a second. It's an absolute supercomputer. And what do most of us do? We spend our time yelling instructions at it. So what's the takeaway here? It's that your body already knows what to do, or at the very least, it knows how to learn. The problem isn't a lack of knowledge, it's interference from self one. The goal isn't to add more instruction, it's to subtract the interference. So how do we actually do this? Here are 4 clear steps. First, stop the inner critic. Just stop the judgmental commentary and observe what's happening. Second, picture the outcome. Visualize where you want the ball to go, not all the tiny mechanics of how to hit it. Third, and this is a big one, let it happen. Consciously trust your body to do its thing without you trying to control it. And finally, observe without judgment. Just see the result as simple feedback, not a reason to praise or blame yourself. All right, let's zoom out for a second, because this whole philosophy, it's not just about hitting a tennis ball better. It's about fundamentally changing our relationship with challenge itself, and what it even means to win. This is such a profound shift in how we think. If winning is only about the scoreboard, then every competition creates a winner and a loser, and that just breeds anxiety and ego. But in the inner game, the real prize is overcoming your own internal hurdles, your self-doubt, your tension, your wandering focus. What this means is that competition becomes a kind of practice for self-awareness. A person across the net isn't your enemy, they're actually a partner who's helping you see yourself more clearly. The goal shifts from trying to prove you're better than them to discovering and becoming a more complete version of yourself. Okay, so to bring it all home, here are the 3 huge lessons from the inner game. First, you have to let go of judgment to truly learn. You need to see things as they are. That is good or bad. Second, trust your body. Your subconscious, self 2, is way more capable than your chattering ego, self 1. So just get out of its way. And third, focus on the present moment. Peak performance only, and I mean only, ever happens when your mind is quiet, right here, right now. So I'll leave you with this to think about. When was the last time you were so lost in what you were doing that you completely forgot you were even supposed to be performing? My guess is that's when you performed brilliantly. You weren't trying to be great, you just were. And that is the inner game. And it's not just some theory, it's a game you can start playing the moment this explainer ends.